What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. In this one, I'll be going over what I believe is the best draft strategy this season. I did an in-depth breakdown on the RB0 strategy, why you might do it, but what its shortcomings are. In this one, I'll be going over a strategy you can implement from the beginning of the draft. Remember, I said one of the requirements for RB0 is that you do have a late first-round pick and that wide receiver needs to be a really big value. Well, that's not overly helpful, if you're drafting from the early spots of the drafts, like 1 through 7, right? Because you just can't do that. So in this video, I'll go over a strategy you can use if you have an early pick. It's one that I did implement in a league that I co-managed last season, and we did end up winning the championship and just honestly dominating the league in general. I really do think that this is the best draft strategy this season, just with the ways that ADPs are falling. And it's why that having a top 4, top 5 pick is really, really nice. So again, RB0 was a later first round strategy. This one is best used if you have a top 5 pick. And I'll probably make another video going over what you could do if you have a middle first round pick. So we'll get into the strategy in a second, but first, of course, have to start things off as usual, the stat of the day. Yesterday's stat was there were 3 quarterbacks sacked at least 8 times in a game last season. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. I asked you who the third one was. The answer is, of course, Joe Burrow. Connor McLeod was the first to get that on YouTube, and at the Lord of Meese was first to get that right on Twitter. Today's stat: what team had the most running back rush attempts last season? So we're not counting wide receiver end rounds, we're not counting quarterback scrambles. What team had the most running back rush attempts last season? All right, so what is my favorite draft strategy this season? This one has a few different names. I've heard it called Hero RB before. I personally called it RB0 Lite last season. Remember, I talked about it in the RB0 video last season. I'm giving it a full video this year. I'm personally, from this point on, going to refer to it as the anchor running back strategy. Under this strategy, you would be taking one running back early, preferably with a top 4 or 5 pick, just because of how things work out. You're going to want McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. To me, that's what you want. You want to be doing this strategy with one of those 5 players, because those 5 players all have incredible ceilings, and we'll kind of get to why that's a requirement later. But you take one of them, that's not very difficult, you were doing that anyways, and then you just abandon the position for a while. You don't have to take all wide receivers. You could go with tight end, you could go with quarterback early, just tight end, just quarterback. You can really do whatever you want. I'll go over my ideal build this season, but most important thing is that you're securing one elite running back, then building the rest of your roster under the assumption that you hit on that running back. You're not, playing it safe, trying to grab multiple mid-range running backs and saying, well, maybe he's going to bust. I need other options in like the 3rd and the 4th round, and just trying to hit on a few. We are assuming that the guy we took with the first 5 pick crushes, and that we don't need to really think about the running back position for a while. Now, I know some of you are very concerned right now. You're like, Nick, we have 2 running back spots in my league. I would like a second one. That's good. Since we're assuming that our elite running back is going to hit, it's not all that important that we hit on a second running back in the draft. We would obviously like to, and it is obviously ideal, and we will try to do that. And I will show you my team last season. I will show you an example team for this season. We obviously want to. We're going to try to. But it's not the end of the world if we miss. Our team has significantly more upside, and thus a greater chance of winning a championship, if we grab elite players at the remaining positions and skip out on trying to find that second running back or that third running back right away. Especially if we know our odds of hitting at those other positions is better, right? On the screen now, and for those of you listening to like the audio version on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, I'm going to go over everything. Don't worry, I'll say exactly what we see. But for those of you on YouTube, as you can see, this is the draft from that championship team last season. If you don't believe me, I've already done a video breaking this team down very early in the season for those of you who like to watch our content in February, March, April. Already gone over this, but look at this strategy, and guess what? It didn't work out perfectly. Christian McCaffrey missed most of the season, and we took him first overall. But I'm so glad that that happened because it takes care of the biggest complaint people have about this strategy is the idea that, well, Nick, you're going to lose. If you do the anchor running back strategy, you take a running back first overall, you abandon it for a while, you lose if that guy goes down. No, you don't lose. Once we had our first pick and we just were like, hey, we're just going to assume Christian McCaffrey is getting us like 27 points per game. He's just going absolutely nuclear. Let's just load up everywhere else. And when Christian McCaffrey goes off, we're loaded everywhere else. I don't care about the running back 2 spot right now. We'll figure it out. And you know what? You don't want to sound arrogant. I don't want to sound arrogant. But you're watching this content, I guess, I don't know when this video goes up. But sometime in mid-July, you might be watching this video in August. But you're researching. You're watching content on YouTube. You're probably not even only watching me. You're listening to Silva and Levitan, right? You're listening to Establish the Run and Fantasy Points and all of these different podcasts out there. You're paying attention, right? Maybe you're getting our draft package. I promise you, we'll walk you through everything and give you a great draft. But you're researching, right? And you're probably going to research during the season. You can figure out your running back 2 spot. You don't need to hit on it in the draft. You can do it in free agency. You can do it in the trade market, or you can hit during the draft because you don't need to draft your studs in the 2nd to 3rd round. You can figure out who's going to be good later as well. But we did this. We were like, we think we can figure out that position. We take him first overall, Christian McCaffrey, and then we take Travis Kelce in the late 2nd round. We take Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd round. And then we say, you know what? We don't have a wide receiver yet, and we're in the 4th round. Let's load up. Let's spend these next 3 picks just trying to hit on a stud. We take Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, and Terry McLaurin in rounds 4 through 6. After that, we're feeling very, very good. We know we've locked in our tight end and our quarterback on a championship roster, and we don't have a need to take a backup at those positions because it would just be dumb of us to do. And we feel fantastic about the wide receivers we've gotten, even spending only a 4th round pick on our first one. So now we say, okay, it's time. It's time to go back to running back and try and just take shots on upside. So that's what we did. We take 4 running backs in a row, round 7 through 11, drafting Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, J.K. Dobbins, and Zach Moss. So through 11 rounds, while everyone's healthy, we have the running back 1, the tight end 1, easily a top 3 quarterback, and 3 elite wide receivers, along with those 4 shots at running back that we feel very, very good can be our running back 2, because we also don't need an elite running back 2. We don't need a running back 1 as a running back 2. We just need someone who could break out and be solid for us down the stretch, because McCaffrey is going to be incredible. Now again, it didn't work because McCaffrey gets hurt and we can't rely on that running back 1. But it didn't really matter because we drafted well enough. We ended up pulling off trades and free agent moves to be totally fine at running back to go along with our elite options at other positions. After this point in the draft, the strategy is pretty much over, right? Just finish off your draft by taking whichever players you personally like at running back, at wide receiver, fill in your bench, obviously still keeping, upside in mind, and then take your kicker, your defense in the last 2 rounds. Hopefully you don't play in a league with a kicker, but take those positions in the last 2 rounds. It's not overly important, what order you're taking running backs and wide receivers in to fill in your draft. Just keep in mind that you don't want to abandon one of them, so keep it fairly even. If you feel worse about one of the positions, we'll maybe take more of that one. And again, obviously, you need to just be drafting players with a ceiling. I want to be able to cut someone that I draft in the 14th round if they don't work out, since there are a ton of just elite waiver ads at the beginning of the season, and I don't want to lose out on them. So I want players who have a ton of upside, but that I'll know very early in the season if they're going to work out. Now, I'm not saying that you're always going to win a championship with this strategy, right? That'd be a ridiculous thing to promise, or that your team's ever really going to look as good as this one turned out. But I think you can appreciate the upside drafting like this has, especially, had we not busted with the first overall pick. Imagine this team with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, because the first 5 running backs have such insane ceilings that building around them at other positions, I believe, is the optimal way to go. Also, I mentioned earlier how the strategy works, whether you want to do things like I did here, or maybe you want to take personally, like you love the wide receivers in rounds 2 through 4, and you want to take 3 receivers, then attack quarterback and tight end after. Maybe you want even a different order. Maybe you want Mahomes in the 3rd round. Like, you can kind of play around with it however you want. My thing is, and you've heard me talk about this before, I really, really this season want to get an elite tight end. And to me, elite tight end means Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. I really want one of them, and I think this strategy works the best. If you grab one of them, that means you're probably not getting Mahomes, or maybe you probably shouldn't go after Mahomes. Just wait until like that 5th or that 6th round to grab one of that, like, I don't want to call them second tier because I have them in one tier, but we know it's like that second tier, right? It's Mahomes, and then it's that grouping of like the next 4. Grabbing one of them in like the 5th or the 6th round is such a great option this season because of just how big of an edge you can gain at tight end and at quarterback if these guys hit. There are very few tight ends capable of the production that Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller are. There are very few quarterbacks capable of having 35, 40-point weeks like this top 5 can do. So I know there are great quarterback options late, but not really ones who are capable of posting 40 and capable of doing, what Josh Allen did in the playoffs last season. When he dropped like 40 points, that won a lot of people a championship, right? And so when you have players capable of that, that's how you win championships. Now, obviously Kelsey is not falling to you in the late 2nd round, or if he does, just like pack it up because you probably won the championship. But I strongly recommend taking one of Waller or Kittle if you're doing this strategy in the late 2nd or the early 3rd round, if you can try and wait that long, because you are opening up one more path to a dominant team. There are great wide receiver options in rounds 3 through 6. And the benefit, especially, this is the important thing, the benefit of adding that 4th one is not even close to as strong as the potential of a top 3 tight end unlocked. So if you're going to do this strategy, please at least take tight end or quarterback in those top 6 rounds. So it's okay if you wait, like you really want Pitts, you really want Hawkinson, you really want, let's say, Mark Andrews, someone like that. That's fine. That's totally fine to do. But adding the 4th wide receiver under this strategy doesn't help you as much, because unless you're playing in a league, I guess this is one thing different. If you're playing a league with 3 starting wide receiver spots and 1 flex, or maybe a league with 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, then it's fine. You can take that 4th and maybe extend tight end 1 round. But if you're in a general format that has 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex spot, you're going to want to not start your bench, and you're going to want to take that tight end because you're unlocking one more path to a championship roster. And again, I do recommend taking one of the top 5 quarterbacks if you're trying to do this, because we're just trying to build the foundation for a super team. Very difficult to trade for these elite quarterbacks, very difficult to trade for some of these elite tight ends. And so if you can get them in the draft and figure out the rest after, it's a really good strategy. And again, when you're doing this, it's probably with a top 5 pick, right? And so if you snake through the draft, you're looking at an early 5th round pick and a late 6th round pick. So if we're thinking about where we're going to be in the draft, and I say I want one of those 2 through 5 quarterbacks, well, I have them all graded out as mid to late 4th round picks. And so I'm totally fine doing it in the 5th. And so if you really think your league's going to take quarterback early and you don't think one will be available in the 6th round, I'm totally fine taking whichever one you like the most in that early 5th round. I know some people are going to be hesitant around that, but I'm perfectly fine doing that. So I strongly recommend this strategy. And if you're just like nervous at all about pulling it off, you know you can start with an elite running back. It's not that hard to take one of the top 5 backs with a top 5 pick. But maybe you're concerned and you just like, you don't want to screw up the rest of it. Like you're not 100% sure when is it too early to take some of these positions? Which guys should I be taking under these positions? Who should we be targeting with the upside, especially late? Then the team we drafted last season that I showed you guys on the screen, we used that based off of the rankings on our website. We just looked at the rankings. We're like, well, this looks like a fantastic pick at this round. And the rankings, honestly, are probably like, I would say like 10 to 20 times better this season. That might seem like an exaggeration, but I'm really not kidding. They are so much better this year, and they're super easy to use. I basically just did a ton of drafts and was like, ooh, this would be an interesting feature to add. This would be a nice column to add. And I just added everything I thought would be beneficial. So they're very, very easy to use now and have a ton of information on them. So if you want to see those and get access to the rankings, the projections, value grades, risk grades, individual breakdowns, and an insane amount more, you can check that out at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. I have seen the content other sites are putting out there, and I know what they are charging. Access to our site is around $50 to $75 too cheap, and that is not taking into account the DFS and sports betting information, which is thrown in for free when you get all in. That alone should probably cost, I'd say over $100, probably close to $200, and it's literally free. So I genuinely have no idea why you would not sign up, but hey, to each his own. So what would be an example? Using this strategy, because we saw what could happen last season, under competitive ADPs, so I'm building a team here assuming that no one becomes a big value. We don't end up with Waller in the second round. Kelsey does not fall to us. We're not getting insane value on Mahomes. We're not getting, a player 2 rounds after where they typically go. I'm assuming we're in a competitive league. I'm going to show you an average team. This is not like best case scenario. These are not all of my just like 100% favorite picks. Like, yes, I just crushed this draft. This is a draft you could typically expect to find. I would love to have gotten Waller in the 3rd. I would love a slightly better wide receiver than Deontay in the 4th if someone fell to me. I would love a better running back than Edmonds in the 7th. But I'd still be extremely happy with how this team works out. We've got upside at running back. After taking Dalvin Cook 2nd overall, I just did this draft from 2nd overall. After taking him 2nd overall, I love the upside of having Edmonds, Carter, Edwards, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams. But even if every single one of them were to bust, having Dalvin Cook will buy us time to either in the future figure it out on free agency or with the trade market. At tight end and quarterback, we have 2 players in Kittle and Josh Allen that I believe could finish number 1 at their position, but at the very least are going to be elite while they're healthy. And at wide receiver, I personally believe we still found incredible values, even not spending a ton of draft capital at the position, because we didn't need to spend, all these like late round picks on defense, but then also on quarterback and tight end, because that's the thing with taking them early. It's that like you can actually get the sleepers that you like. But if you like a ton of sleepers late, but then you wait on quarterback and tight end, it's like you're closing your draft with like quarterback, tight end, defense. How many picks do you really have for these sleepers that we like and these potential league winners that we like? And one quick note, if you're looking at the screen here, you see AJ Green in, I believe, the 15th round. I'm not looking at it right now, but I believe it was the 15th round. It was the last pick that I made that was not a defense, right? Honestly, I've been thinking about him, and he's like the perfect mold of a player we talk about late. I have zero attachment to AJ Green. I think there's a very strong chance he is dust. I think that Rondale Moore could be better than him this season. I think Christian Kirk could be better than him. But there's also a chance that the Cardinals throw the ball a ton, that they're using 4 wide receivers on the most plays of any team in the league, and that he's on the field for virtually every play, and that defenses are not going to be paying a lot of attention to AJ Green when they have DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. They're worried about Kyler Murray scrambling. Like, no defense is looking at AJ Green like, gotta double that guy, right? So if he hits, he could hit big. he's still AJ Green. He still has talent. But if I drop my 15th round pick, for a hot waiver at the beginning of the season, fine with it. And since I have no attachment to AJ Green, if I look at week 1, he still looks complete dust, he's gone, right? Same with Jacoby Myers. I think he's the wide receiver 1 of the Patriots. I think he's a steal this late in the draft. But if I'm wrong, we're going to know right away. We're probably going to know in week 1, week 2, and I can easily drop him. Those are the players we want to draft late, guys that have upside, but can easily be cut since we know right away what their role is going to be. We know how good they're going to be. We're going to know. In terms of this strategy, it's not technically required, but we're always looking to draft this way. So I think that's just like good advice in general. But no, if we're doing anchor running back, there's no real requirement after like the 7th round. At that point, it's like it's not super important what you do, just that you're taking players in general that have upside, that can break out. I don't want players who can't break out because it doesn't matter what strategy I'm using. I don't want them on my team. But that is a strategy. And also for those of you listening to the podcast, I'll walk through the team right now. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I'll pull it up one more time just to reiterate the point of what we're doing here. Dalvin Cook, 2nd pick of the 1st round. He's my anchor. He's the anchor running back to this team. We then take DK Metcalf in the 2nd round, George Kittle 3rd round, Deontay Johnson 4th round, Josh Allen 5th round. We've secured our quarterback, our tight end, our anchor running back. I go back to wide receiver with Courtland Sutton, another name that I think can be a 1. Now I have 3. I've got Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Courtland Sutton. I feel great about wide receiver. I've locked in quarterback, locked in tight end, locked in my anchor. I go back to running back. I try and hit on Chase Edmonds. I try and hit on Michael Carter, 2 guys who have featured workloads in their range of outcomes. Obviously, I'm not like in love with these guys. I still think there are other backs that could have been better if they fell to me, but I wanted to make this realistic. This is what you can expect in those rounds. At round 9, I didn't see a running back I liked, so I went back to wide receiver, took Elijah Moore. Round 10, 11, we're going back to running back, trying to hit on Gus if Dobbins gets hurt, trying to hit on A.J. Dillon if Aaron Jones gets hurt. We go to round 12, didn't see a running back I wanted, so we take Paris Campbell, an upside wide receiver, someone I think can have a good role this season. Back to running back in round 13 with Jamal Williams, trying to hit if DeAndre Swift goes down. And then, of course, Jacoby Myers and AJ Green that we talked about before. And then whatever defense you really want to take in the last round. That's just more streaming. That's something we'll probably go over later in the season when we look at early season schedules. Any defense that you feel good about doesn't matter for this strategy. So yeah, that is the strategy. If you have any questions, do not hesitate in asking in the Discord chat, which of course you get access to by getting all in on the website. I try to answer as many questions as I can in there, but you can also get input from other members as well. And I think it's very, very beneficial if you have questions. And again, if you want to see my exact rankings, you can access all of that information, all of that premium content at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that, my friends, is the end of this one. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, then how about hitting that like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? But thanks for watching.